History's worst battle plans didn't just fail. They literally wrote the rule book that every smart army follows today. So tonight, we're not here to sneer. We're here to steal their playbook. Because if a plan can shatter on contact and still leave a priceless lesson behind, then your next project just might learn something too. We're counting down 13 notorious military misfires. And at the end, tell me which lesson you'd steal for your job. I'll pin the sharpest take. Let's get started. Number 13, the charge of the Light Brigade, 1,854. A mumbled, misunderstood order. The command from high command was vague, passed down a long chain of command during the Battle of Balaclava until it became verbal chaos. The field commander, Lord Cardigan, was told to attack the guns. He looked around, saw the wrong guns, and pointed his 670 cavalrymen straight into a 2-mile-long valley of death lined with Russian cannons on 3 sides. It was magnificent, poetic, and a massacre. Over 40% of the men were killed or wounded in 20 minutes. They believed speed could beat firepower. They were wrong. The lesson, written in blood, you never ever move without crystal clear commander's intent. And you never move until a forward observer confirms the target with their own eyes. Number 12, Pickett's charge, 1,863. Gettysburg, day 3. Robert E. Lee was convinced his massive artillery barrage, the largest of the entire war, had broken the Union line. But the smoke just hid them. On the other side of that mile-wide open field, 10,000 Union soldiers were waiting, dug in behind a simple stone wall on Cemetery Ridge. 12,500 Confederates stepped out, shoulder to shoulder, a perfect target. It wasn't a charge, it was a parade ground assault into a wall of lead. They believed morale could beat bullets. It can't. The new rule? You do not frontally assault a fortified, dug-in position without overwhelming suppression, without smoke, or without a flanking attack. Period. Number 11, Task Force Smith, 1,950. The Korean War. America's first responders, Task Force Smith, were rushed to the front to delay an entire North Korean armored division. They were an under-equipped, under-trained speed bump. Their main anti-tank weapon was the old 2.36-inch bazooka from World War II. The problem? Its rockets literally bounced off the slanted frontal armor of the new Soviet-made T-34 tanks. The GIs watched in horror as their best shots did nothing. The tanks just rolled right over them. They learned the hard way. Your presence doesn't stop armor. The lesson. If the mission is stop tanks, you damn well better bring actual anti-tank weapons that have been tested against the current threat, not the last one. Number 10. The Tet Offensive, 1,968. Vietnam. A massive surprise attack across the entire country during a holiday truce. Tactically, the U.S. and South Vietnamese forces won almost every single fight, decimating the Viet Cong. But it didn't matter. The U.S. command, led by General Westmoreland, had been telling the public for months, "We're winning. We see the light at the end of the tunnel." Then, TV screens lit up with images of Viet Cong sappers inside the walls of the U.S. Embassy in Saigon. That one image shattered the narrative. They thought counting body counts equaled victory. They were wrong. The new doctrine: you don't just plan an operation, you plan the story of the operation. Because in a modern war, the audience at home is the center of gravity. Number 9, the Battle of Grozny, 1,994 to 95. The First Chechen War, the Russian army simply drove their tanks and armored vehicles in long columns straight into the dense city with no infantry support. They got trapped. The long columns couldn't maneuver in the narrow streets. Chechen ambush teams, often just teenagers with RPGs, fired down from rooftops and up from basements. The tank cannons couldn't elevate high enough or depress low enough to fire back. It was a turkey shoot. The broken assumption that tanks are invincible everywhere. The urban warfare rulebook was born. Infantry dismounts first. You move in combined arms teams. You control every window and rooftop, and you clear it block by block. Number 8, the Dieppe Raid, 1,942. This was the bloody dress rehearsal for D-Day. 6,000 Allied troops, mostly Canadians, launched a head-on attack against the heavily defended French port. It was a disaster from minute one. The brand new Churchill tanks, which were supposed to provide support, couldn't get traction. Their tracks just spun on the beach's loose shingle. It's not sand, it's like large gravel. The combat engineers, who were vital for clearing obstacles, were pinned down and cut to pieces in the first 10 minutes. nearly 60% of the force was killed, wounded, or captured. They thought surprise alone could beat concrete, and here's what they learned for D-Day. You must have massive pre-landing bombardment. You need specialized engineering vehicles like the Funnies, and you need relentless air and sea coordination. Number 7, the Battle of the Somme, 1916. A solid week of non-stop artillery, over 1.5 million shells fired. The British High Command promised their soldiers it would destroy all the German barbed wire and underground bunkers. It didn't. Many shells were the wrong type shrapnel, not high explosive, and countless were duds that failed to explode. The Germans just waited it out in deep, concrete-lined bunkers. On day 1, the whistle blew, and 20,000 British soldiers died before lunch. Discovering the wire was still there, and the machine guns were untouched. They confused duration with effect. The lesson: artillery must be precise and observed. You need aerial spotters, a creeping barrage that moves with the infantry, and you must confirm the target is destroyed. Number 6, the Gallipoli Campaign, 1915. This was Winston Churchill's plan to knock Turkey out of WWI, but the core failure was a split command. The Navy and the Army had different plans and didn't communicate. They landed the Anzac forces on a tiny, narrow beach at the base of sheer 300-foot cliffs, Anzac Cove. It was the wrong beach. The Turkish defenders, led by a brilliant officer named Mustafa Kemal, simply held the high ground and rained down fire for 8 long months. Logistics, intel, and command, everything fell apart. Since then, every amphibious plan requires current hydrographic data, a single unified commander, and a logistics plan that has been rehearsed. Number 5, Operation Market Garden, 1944. The plan sounded great. Drop 3 airborne divisions to seize a carpet of bridges, then rush armor up a single road, Hell's Highway, and end the war by Christmas. But the plan had zero margin for error. The British 1st Airborne dropped at Arnhem, the bridge too far, landed right on top of 2 battle-hardened SS Panzer divisions that Allied intelligence insisted weren't there. The single road became a traffic jam, and the paratroopers were cut off and annihilated. They bet everything on speed, thinking it could cure a fragile plan. The lesson: deep airborne attacks need multiple supply routes, accurate intel on enemy reserves, and a plan for what happens when speed isn't enough. Number 4, Operation Eagle Claw, 1980. The ambitious U.S. hostage rescue in Iran. The plan completely disintegrated in the Iranian desert. It wasn't just the infamous sandstorms, it was the plan itself. It was ad hoc. You had Marine pilots flying Navy helicopters to drop off Army Delta Force teams, and they had never rehearsed it together. When the helicopters started failing due to maintenance, the entire complex plan fell apart. The mission ended in a catastrophic crash on the ground before it even launched. They had assumed elite units could just plug and play. The direct result? The creation of SOCOM, Special Operations Command, a permanent joint command where everyone trains, communicates, and operates under one roof. Number 3, the Maginot Line, 1940. France built a multi-billion-dollar static fortress. It was a technological marvel with underground railroads and retractable gun turrets, all facing Germany. So the Germans, they just went around it. They attacked through the Ardennes forest, a sector the French High Command had assumed was impassable for tanks. The fixed guns of the Maginot Line couldn't pivot to stop a breakthrough 100 miles to the north. They built a wall against the last war. They believed, if I'm fortified, I'm safe. The lesson: defense must be flexible. You balance fixed obstacles with mobile reserves, sensors, and the ability to counterattack an idea, not just a location. Number 2, Operation Barbarossa, 1941. The Nazis planned to knock out the Soviet Union in 3 months, but their ambition ran into simple, brutal math. Logistics. The Russian rail gauge was different from the German one, meaning every single supply had to be unloaded and reloaded by hand. When the fall rains came, the infamous Russian roads dissolved into a sea of mud, the Rasputitsa that swallowed trucks whole. And when winter hit, German soldiers froze to death in their summer uniforms. The tanks stopped running not from combat, but from empty fuel cans and cracked engine blocks. They let ambition outrun their supply chain. The greatest lesson of warfare: logistics comes first. Your campaign plan is a fantasy if you don't have a tested plan for fuel, rail, food, and winter coats. And number 1, the Schlieffen Plan, 1914. This was Germany's master plan to win World War I in 40 days. It was a giant, perfectly timed wheel through Belgium to crush France, then pivot to Russia. But it was a timetable, not a plan. It demanded that hundreds of thousands of men and horses march at a perfect, inhuman pace for weeks on end. It had zero margin for error. It didn't account for Belgian resistance, or blown-up bridges, or simple human exhaustion. The wheel slowed, the plan broke, the French counterattacked at the Marne, and the entire war froze into 4 years of trench warfare hell. The ultimate lesson: a rigid timetable is not a strategy. Your plan must have branches and sequels, and you must empower your junior leaders to make smart decisions when the original plan inevitably breaks. And there it is. Behind every safety checklist and every piece of modern doctrine, there's a disaster that paid the tuition in blood. Turns out, bad assumptions create better rules, but only when someone is smart enough to write them down and train on them. So, which lesson would you steal for your team this week? Logistics first? No city without infantry? Or always plan the media story? Tell me your pick in the comments. I'll pin the sharpest answer. Oh, and if you want a PDF summary of all 13 lessons, just comment with the word playbook. I'll get it to you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.